Okay, good morning and welcome. Great to see you. My name is Bianca Denham. I know a lot of us know each other. We've just got a small group so far today. Hopefully we've got a few more people jumping in. Today is our final scripts and dialogues class in the session of 7. And today we're going to be talking about negotiation. I have been leading you through this content for the whole series so far. We had Kelly Tatlow on the first one, and I'm really excited today. We have a co-host, a special co-host, an expert negotiator by way of South Australia's #1 auctioneer, Mr. John Morris. He's also the chief auctioneer for South Australia. John, welcome.
Hello. 1 second, my battery's about to die. Not a good introduction.
We're having technical difficulties all over the country. I'm actually coming in from the Concierge building today. Some of you may recognise this space. I'm in Brisbane for the day, and John is coming in from his studio in West Beach. So we're going to be talking through negotiation today. John, do you mind just skipping through the next couple of slides for us? So we are on the negotiation session. Thank you very much. I mentioned about John. John has been the chief auctioneer for Ray White South Australia for a number of years now. As I mentioned, he is the #1 auctioneer in South Australia. He has been an auctioneer for 10 years, 11 years.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And as I said, his job is to deal with negotiations on an almost daily basis. So, John, I'm just going to throw over to you. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself and you know, what you do in terms of the field of negotiation in your day-to-day role?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Bianca said, I've been an auctioneer for about coming up close to 10 years or just over 10 years. I also ran the real estate college here in South Australia for a few years, and I was also a sales agent with the best agent in South Australia, Bianca Denham. We were a sales team together. And basically, yeah, as far as negotiation goes, I'm involved in this on an almost daily basis. I do auctions almost every day, generally not Mondays and Tuesdays, but almost every other day I'll do auctions, and I do get heavily involved with the negotiations, both with the buyers and the sellers. So what we're going to be talking about is negotiation, regardless of whether it's auction or whether it's a private treaty sale. But they're the same thing. Basically, it's just one of them is in a bit more of a pressure cooker than the other. One of them is done on the fly, on the day, within the space of 15 to 20 minutes, whereas a private treaty negotiation could take hours or even days sometimes to get a deal together. So whenever I take these buy negotiation or seller negotiation sessions, I basically go along exactly the same line that I would during an auction, but I just pick it apart so that it can be sent open, that it can be used on private treaty sales as well.
Excellent, that's great. So yeah, we do want to focus on dialogue. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, John, that'd be great. We do want to focus on dialogue today, but we do need to start with a little bit of the why. We need to start with the why behind the dialogue and really get you set up for success. And with all dialogue, if you're really across the steps and the process of what you're doing, the dialogue will come more naturally. So we're talking about getting into a negotiation. We really wanted to start with a bit of a precursor. John, do you want to talk through these 3 things?
Yep,
absolutely. Would you like me to?
So, no, I can do it. I'm more than happy to do it. Bianca's got a little bit of a sore throat there, guys. It's not COVID. So I'll jump in when you need to, though, Bianca. Yeah, so the first one, I think, is the vendor needs to be ready to accept an offer. They need to be ready to accept an offer when it's there. So let's just go for an example of very quickly. Let's just say a vendor wants $500,000, and on day 1 you get an offer of $500,000 and you present it to them straight away. They're not going to be ready to take that offer. They will think, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I need to increase what I want. You need to get them ready by giving them other offers first, giving them offers that will condition them to be ready for the right offer when it comes. Did you want to add anything to that, Bianca?
Perfect.
No.
So and we will go into more detail on that.
And the next one, move at the right pace, fast or slow. So generally speaking, most of the negotiations I do are, they're on the day. They're very fast because it's during auction. But you need to know what to do with offers. You need to know you've got 48 hours in South Australia to present an offer. You need to know, do you present it straight away or do you take that time? Do you give them 10 minutes or an hour? And this will all come with experience, I think. And again, we'll talk about that at the end. The really important one, the last one here, I think this is really, really important. Everybody must feel like they've won. It must feel like a win-win situation, which we'll go into again. If we have one of them thinking they've won and one of them thinking they've lost, it's just not going to be good for anyone. If both feel like they've lost, then you're never getting any repeat business.
Great.
Shall I go on to the slides?
Please, yeah. Yep.
So basically, as it says there, our role is to provide information so that the vendor can make an educated decision. Everything that we do when we're talking to the buyers is to fill out this vendor report, to basically flesh out the vendor meeting or the sector sale meeting. Now, what we were saying before about the vendor needs to be ready, it's almost, we spend all of this time getting the vendors ready in the first few weeks so that then we can we can work on the buyers. So we need to just keep feeding them more and more information. So I'll go on to the next slide here. There's a line there Bianca's put, doesn't matter how great your negotiation skills are if your vendor isn't ready to meet the market. I'd also go as far as to say, of course we're auction advocates, but I would put the best negotiator in the world up against the worst auctioneer, and that will be the best negotiator for you. I know we're not supposed to be talking about auction. I can't help myself. Sorry, Bianca. If you want a negotiation, a real, true negotiation, you've got to go to auction. But the lines here, the first one, understand what will the offer do to progress the sale. You need to know, exactly what we were talking about before. If your vendor wants $500,000 and on day one you get 500,000 or 510, what will that do to the sale? Will it assist in the sale or will it hinder the sale? If that's the first offer you present, they will not be ready to take it. Let's just say they're at $500,000 and the property's worth $450. Will they be ready to take that $450 if they haven't received several $400,000 offers beforehand? We need to understand exactly what that offer is going to do.
We spoke about that saying, John, speed kills. Sometimes in negotiations, speed kills, especially when the vendor receives offers to purchase before they are ready to accept them. And you might feel you've got the world's most reasonable vendor in the world. And we're seeing this a lot with off-market sales at the moment, where a vendor says, hey, Callum, if you can get me 600,000, I'll sell. Callum goes, plows through his buyer database, produces a $600,000 offer, and the vendor turns around and says, oh, actually, I probably want 625 now. And that can just keep going up because you've brought it too quickly, as John said. They've got no understanding of what the market value is. All they know is that the first person who came and interacted with the property to the level where they're ready to make an offer gave them what they thought was a good price. So it's natural for them to believe there's more money out there. So it's a really good point there, understanding what is this offer going to do? Is this offer going to move me towards the sale, or is it actually going to push the sale away? And what John's comments before of giving information to the vendor so that over a timely process or quickly enough, so that when we unleash the market on the property, the vendor's ready to accept where the market is on the property. Back to you,
covers
John.
off. on the next line as well, managing vendor expectations, we've pretty much covered off on that. That's what we're doing. There's a few different things there, So in an auction, for example, if let's just say we've stopped at 450, reserves 500, the auction stopped at 450. If I go up to the buyer and he instantly gives me another 20, and I go back into the sellers and say, he stopped at 450, but I've already got him up to 470. They're going to assume, oh, well, that only took you 30 seconds, so go and spend a minute with him and you'll be able to get him up by more. You need to be able to manage exactly where the vendor, you need to be able to manage their expectations. It's, sorry, Bianca, I've completely forgot the word I was trying to say. It's almost, wherever the vendors are, we've got to have a level at which we're not presenting offers to a degree. So Bianca's put it there, obtain a foundation of interest level offers. Does everybody, do you understand what that is, or do we need to?
I think you should explain what an interest level offer is.
So let's just say a vendor is at $500,000. That's what they want to sell your property for. You as a team think it's worth 450. What we need to do to get the vendor's expectations down to reality, we need to present offers in the first instance 10% below your selling price, where you believe it will be.
The team price.
So that would be $405,000. So to get them ready, you have to start giving them 400, 395, 405, and never anything above that. So that if that 450 offer comes, they're ready for it. If auction day comes, they're ready for that 450 that you believe is there. And what I would say is any offer that is presented to you, if you know you can get it 10 times over, present it to them. If you know it's worth 450 and someone offers you 400,000, then you know that you can get that from every single person who's come through. Present it to them, because that's your interest level offer. If you know you can get it every day, get 3 of them. Get 3 $400,000 offers and present it to them. The next line there, understand when you have to present your offer. Now, it's not only South Australia in this, is it, Bianca?
No. We're all over Australia here.
In South Australia, we have 48 hours. Is it 48 or 72?
48.
48 hours to, you can tell I don't deal with private treaty now, can't you? You have 48 hours to present a written offer. So use that time. If that offer comes in at 450 or 460, you know that's what they should be taking. Use the 48 hours, sit on it, and use the 48 hours to get yourself more interest level offers.
Can I just tell a story there, John? I love to tell the story about a gentleman named Andy Newen. Andy was a new sales agent, started in Ray White, came through the associate program, worked really hard, knocked on doors, made cold calls, met people, got listings, did a really great job early in his career. And he came to me very early, probably within his first couple of months. And he said, oh, Bianca, I've just had the most terrible situation. He had 2 properties, and some of you might have heard me tell this story. 2 properties. In the first week, he produced an offer that was at the vendor's expectations. And in both cases, the vendor didn't accept it. And Andy was like, I don't understand. Bianca, they said this was their dream money. These people came in, I negotiated, I pushed them up, I got them the vendor's dream price, I presented it to the vendor, and they didn't accept it twice. And in both occasions, he lost those buyers. And this wasn't in this boom market. This was in a normal market. So he was then facing weeks and weeks and weeks of trying to replicate that situation again. And in both cases, he ended up producing lower offers. And the vendor just was not prepared. They had not been educated enough by their agent to know that that was a great offer. And it just came down to this framework of getting your negotiation, the steps in order to reduce the resistance and you are in control of reducing the resistance. So that's what this whole vendor service setup part is about.
Yeah, and the last one there, don't negotiate too soon. Do not, and we go on about this a bit more on the next slide. When somebody presents you with an offer, take it straight away. Say, let me see what I can do. I'll present that to my vendor. Let me see what I can do.
So just go a bit further, John. So when you're saying take it straight away, you mean just don't start trying to increase them. Just take it. So let's say my vendor wants 500 and someone wants to make an offer at 420. You're saying just take the 420 straight to the vendor.
So no. So what I'm saying is don't negotiate with that 420. Don't negotiate with it. That's still above the interest level that it should be if you're thinking it's 450. So in that instance, what you need to do is go and get a couple of $400,000 offers. Okay. So you need to go and get a couple of 400, but don't negotiate with this 420 yet.
Right. So we wouldn't try and put them up to 450 before we go to the vendor.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so anyway. So in auction, you wouldn't negotiate ever. Someone comes with a 420 offer, great, I'll take that to my vendor. And you do not go at all. Now, we'll go on to this. I'm going to go on to the next page because what we also need to do is you need to set the pace. You're not just a delivery guy. You're in control of this whole situation. So you need to set the pace. So let's just say, for example, this person comes with 420. You haven't given them any offers at 405 yet, or 400 or below. You need to get those offers in because then you need to start doing the work on that 420 afterwards. So what you need to do is you also need to get all of their conditions. You must ensure that the purchaser is ready to purchase. You must be sure of that. You know, what are their conditions? Are they subject to finance? Are they subject to sale? How far ahead with their finance are they? Have they got a pre-approval in place? You know, because if you've got a 420 with a pre-approval in place and a 425 that's not even started on their finance journey, then I'd be working with the 420 more than the 425. This will all come, the next one, fast or slow, what's right in this situation, this will all come with experience. You can't know straight away. And you'll make mistakes, and that's absolutely fine. Everybody makes mistakes. But basically with auction, for example, everything's very, very fast. But the 3 weeks beforehand is the slow point when all we're working on at that point is the vendor. We are just tightening that screw on the vendor, getting them ready to sell on auction day. So it's all a slow negotiation with the vendor, and the buyers, no negotiation with buyers. But all of this stuff, the 48 hours that you have in a private treaty with an offer, use that if you need to. Get as many offers as possible, because exactly like what Bianca was saying with Andy, you know, I almost want my vendors to say 3 things on my last vendor meeting, which I hold 40 hours before the auction. I want them to say, we're not giving it away because at that price we are. We'll just rent it out, or we don't need to sell. And I want them to say all of those things, because what it is they're at that point putting up foundations on very, very shaky ground. And that's all it is, putting up barriers, on very, very shaky ground, very, very shaky foundations. So we work on the vendors for that time. And it's the same with private treaties as well. We need to get them ready. The next line there, update each stakeholder with each change. This is why I was talking about over here, don't negotiate too soon. You want the vendor to see all of your working out. You want them to see everything. So the 420 comes in, you might have got them up to 430 verbally, but you want to show that 420 to the vendor. And the vendor might, if it's on a contract, they might counter offer with 500. Great. Scrub it, cross it off, initial it, take it back to the purchaser. You know, we need to show everything that we're doing, because if we start negotiating at 420 and we negotiate them up to 450, we haven't shown them anything. Even if we say they started at 420 and I got them up to 450, you're just telling them that you quite easily got them up to 450. Great, so they moved 30,000, so go and get them up another 30, go and get them to 480, and then we'll start talking. Start it at 420. So here's your offer at 400, here's your offer at 405, here's another one at 410, and here's one at 420. They're going to want to talk to the 420 buyer, but never suggest that you can get more out of them. Look, they've got 420, but I reckon I can get more. Don't ever do that. That's their offer. And I think a lot of us are scared of doing this because it's below our price. It's below the price we said it was. It's below the price that they want. So we're very scared of doing it. But all you're doing is presenting an offer. Just present it with completely unbiased. Don't apologize for it. Stefan Siciliano does really well on these ones. He prepares the vendor for an offer. He says, "Oh, I think this one's our buyer. I think these are the guys that are gonna buy it." And then he gets an offer at interest level and just presents it to them. And he doesn't say anything, he just presents it to them. And they go, you know, and it just works so well at getting them ready for that.
There's a real art to that, John. There's a real art to presenting an offer that you feel uncomfortable with as an agent. And that's definitely something that we see in the best negotiators and the best salespeople, is that ability to detach from that price, detach from the appraisal price, detach from the vendor's price. But also, like you just demonstrated there, when you're presenting an offer that will make you feel uncomfortable to deliver. You know, my vendor wants 500 and I'm about to present a 420. The dialogue is a lack of dialogue. The dialogue is, as you just said, we have an offer, it's at 420. Zipping, you know, being positive about it. We have a tendency to go, oh, it's only at 420. You know, it's our first offer. They're probably just tire kickers. Remove all of that negative language. Great news. We've got an offer. These people love your property so much, they're prepared to put an offer in writing. It's at 420,000. Let the vendor fill in the gaps.
I'll give you a perfect example of this. I had an auction at the weekend where they were ready to pull this auction. They were saying, you know, the offers are ridiculous. I don't want to go ahead with it. We had a couple of crisis meetings with them. But basically, we'd had a bit of feedback that was around about the 900. And they had indicated that they wanted a minimum of 1.1. Now, all I said was, with the figures that we've had coming through and with the amount of bidders that we're expecting, we're thinking that somewhere around that 900, maybe a little bit more, maybe we could go up by about 5% on that. We thought we'd get close to 1 million, really. But we said, you know, with that 5%, that would take you up to about $945,000. How does that make you feel? And that was all I said. That's the only words that came out of my mouth. Stefan, shut up as well. We both just sat there. How does that make you feel? Now, Stefan knew that they wanted 1.1. So he had to stay quiet. And they were quiet for about 40 seconds. And then the wife said, well, it would have to be 1 million. It would have to have 1 million in front of it before we even consider selling. So they brought themselves down by $100,000. And that was that pressure, that 40 seconds of pressure. I guarantee you at the beginning of that meeting, they were at 1.1. And by the end of it, after we've given them all the facts, they've done the work on themselves. We got them ready to sell really below that that below that. They were ready at 980. When we got to 980, Stefan was inside talking to them, and they were saying, if that's all there is, let's sell it. Anything to add there, Bianca?
No, that's really good. I want you to talk about the bottom piece there, obtain agreement before revealing the move.
Okay, so what I think that means is, you know, so at auction, for example, I literally have, let me just see if I've got a card here. I literally will have, on one side, I will have the vendor, and on the other, I'll have the buyer. So I literally go V and B. So I will go, right, the vendor, you can't see that, so it's pointless using it. So let's just say the vendor is at $1 million and the buyer is at 900. I'll keep a little bit. If I go and get that 900 up to 910 or 920, I'll kind of be I'll be a step behind where I was. So I'll go in and say, the buyer's at 900 and I know I've got 20 up my sleeve. Now, I used to have a problem with this because I used to think it was being dishonest. But I think we're not doing the right thing if we don't do this. Because if we reveal those moves, if we reveal what we've done beforehand, the vendor will not be ready and they will always expect more. So I will always have, so the buyer's at 9, vendor's at $1 million. I'll get the vendor down to 980, but I will still be at $1 million with the purchaser. So it's always, so there's only a $60,000 gap, but they think there's $100,000. And with each move I do, if I go and get another 10, if I go 930 and they come to 970, I'm then at 920 and 980. Does that make sense?
You're just working a step behind what's really happening.
So let's just say it's here, 900, 1 million. If I've got them to 920, I've got them to 980, I'm dealing with this and this, even though the reality is here. Then I get them to 970, get them to 930, I deal with this and this. So I'm always a step behind, but always have this in writing. Always have it on a piece of paper that the vendor or the buyer can't see. So we do this at auction all the time. If an auction has paused and we're walking between the highest bidder and the seller, we are doing this 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Can I just jump in here? So this process of short, fast, small incremental moves can be applied to private treaty. And we call it lighting up stock in private treaty. So, you know, talking about fast or slow, this is what you can tend to find is when both parties can feel that there's the possibility of this deal coming together, you've got to keep moving with that momentum. So John will sometimes come back to me at the end of a day of auctions and say, bloody hell, like that, there's a sale there to be made. The agent wasn't pushing hard enough on either party. So you've got to understand when, you know, this type of situation that John's just demonstrated to us, it's really important that you keep the pace. In this type of scenario, you've got to sort of try and keep applying the pressure and keep it moving, because you'll find people, because they can perceive like the sale is there, like I know we're almost there, you can actually keep applying that pressure. So you could do this in a private treaty situation. This might be a series of phone calls. You know, you might have shown a buyer through a piece of stock, same numbers. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I know you're at $1 million. I've got an offer. Shayla's made an offer at 900. What do you want to do? They're only in town for this afternoon. They're flying back to Melbourne. They are looking at other properties. They will buy a property today. We need to move with them. So putting that time pressure, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, what do you take? They're not going to go to $1 million. What will you take? Okay. And so you can do this in a private treaty situation, but it's really powerful to keep the momentum going. This is how auctions work. That pressure and the momentum and keeping moving them and keep it. I'll come back to you. If they can feel that each side is willing to keep moving, they'll stay in there. They'll go on the journey with you. John, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's all good. That's all good. So we talked about the thing before, everybody wins. So it's saying if you've made the buyer work to get the property, they won't feel like they've overpaid. Absolutely true. If you've made if you make the seller see that you've made the buyer work, they won't feel like they're underselling it as well by the same token. The worst thing we can do is everybody walks away thinking they've lost. So,
give us an example of everybody's lost. Give us how that would work. Look.
So the buyer thinks they've overpaid and the seller thinks they've undersold.
You often see that with properties where you've like one offer. So you'll often see places where you have low traffic. So it could be a regional area where long days on market, where agents are not in the practice of presenting multiple interest level offers, and where an agent relies on, well, I told the vendor your first offer's often your best offer. We only get one offer around here. So it's where the agent applies a lot of pressure to both sides, to both the seller and the buyer. And sometimes the pressure is too much. And that's when you see a higher level of cool-offs, where you've just pushed, you've just absolutely bullied people into doing this. And you'll often see the purchaser will feel like, you've made me go too far. I don't see value at this level. I'm out. But sometimes they stick together.
Yeah. What will happen at that point is the buyer will cool off if they can. Absolutely will cool off if they can. Which what you've also done then is you've set the selling price, even if the vendor is thinking they're underselling, you've set that benchmark now. That's that price. Now in this market, it probably doesn't matter too much, but in a normal market, if you've got the seller to sell at 950 and you've got that buyer up to 950, the seller wanted $1 million, they feel like they're underselling it, then that's their new benchmark, 950, absolutely. And if you can't get that again, you've just screwed the campaign for yourself, and probably you're going to lose the listing because they're not going to, unless you can get them ready to sell by the end of that 90 days. So that's the worst possible. The other one, the win-loss, if one feels like they're winning and the other feels like they're losing, well, if it's the buyer that feels like they're losing, they're going to cool off. 100% they are going to cool off. If the seller feels like they're the one that's losing, and I had this at auction the other day, they're going to want you to reduce your commission. If they feel like you're making them take an offer that is not right for them, they are going to say you need to lower your commission.
Well, and they're also going to talk negatively to their friends. They're not going to refer you. They're going to say it was not a great experience. I felt like I was forced to make a decision.
Yeah. And that's all in the preparation. It's all in the preparation, especially with the buyer, the seller. With the seller, you need to prepare them for real life, basically. You need to hit them hard with interest level offers. And look, of the loss, that all you're going to do there is be badmouthed by both sides. Win-loss, you're going to be badmouthed by one, not by the other. And you're not going to get a sale if it's the buyer who feels like they're losing. We all want a win-win situation. We can do that exactly as we were saying before. You have to show the working out on both sides. You have to show it. And we'll talk about this a bit more on the next slide. But, we have to make them know that the seller has to think that these people have outbid themselves, basically, by X. And the buyer has to think that the seller has come down from their expectations to X. That's the only way we can get that win-win situation. The buyer has seen the buyer has seen the seller come down, and the seller has seen the buyer come up, and they've met somewhere in the middle.
John, we also spoke the other day about, the scenario where, and this often happens with newer agents who are less experienced. My vendor wants $1 million. Purchaser comes through the property and says, we want to make an offer at $1 million. And I go, oh, great, excellent. That'll buy it. And you're you're making it too easy, which is that line at the top. If a purchaser doesn't feel like they've worked for it, the same with the vendor, they can get a little bit of cold feet of feeling like, oh, well, I've overpaid here. that agent got a bit too excited. They accepted my offer a bit too quickly, and I've overpaid. I'm going to back out. Whenever you have a deadline sale, a best offer sale where you're working behind closed doors, not an auction, the highest offerer, you've got to be careful with the way you congratulate the highest offerer, because you've got to make them feel, especially in that situation where it's not an auction and they can't see where the other offers have come in, this is the only time I would advocate maybe telling some half truths. Is such a good idea, Shayla, that you decided to increase your deposit amount, because that's the only thing that separated you from the next person. Making them feel like they really had to fight to win that property. If they feel like, hey, we came in at 1.2, we didn't increase our offer, it was accepted, and I reckon maybe we were 100,000 above the next buyer. That's not a great feeling for a purchaser. So you always have to create the environment where the purchaser feels like they've made a great decision offering at the level that they are, even when they're the only person at that level.
So we had exactly this with that case study I did at the Pavilion. It was an auction that almost sold prior. There was offers at 8, 9, 950, and then the second highest offer was 1,130,000, and then there was an offer at 1.2. They went back to everybody and said, there's been an offer that's come forward that's going to purchase the property. I need you to put your best and final offer forward by 2 o'clock this afternoon. The 1.2 didn't increase anything, didn't do anything at all. They went back and congratulated the 1.2, and basically they started saying, I don't know if I can pay that deposit. I don't know if I can get a building inspector in time, blah, 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 blah. All of this stuff. Then they just never turned up. Because they'd done nothing, they felt like they'd overpaid.
Yep.
Anything to add there, Bianca?
No, perfect.
All right. So with negotiating, this is a hard and fast rule, 100%. Big money for vendors, little money for purchasers. So whenever you're presenting an offer to a vendor, all of it. You don't say they started at 900, they've come up by 20. They started at $900,000 and they've come up to $920,000, which is $50,000 above the reserve, above the other offers. But with the purchaser, look, I know where you're at. Can you give me another 20? Can you give me another 5? So we never say, can you take it up to 920? It's always, can you give me another 20? Can you give me another 5? Can you give me 10 on top of that?
Yeah, you wouldn't say, can you give me $10,000? Just give me 10.
Look, I haven't got a problem with $10,000 as such, but never say, I know you're at 900, but can you make it 920? It's always the smaller ones. And Bianca said here, the vendor dialogue. So this is an auction, basically, at the moment. And I use both of these lines almost on a daily basis. So when I go in, if an auction's paused and it's below the reserve, I basically go in and just hit the vendor with facts. I'll basically go in and say, exactly what it says there. We have 8 registered bidders. 4 of them have participated in the bidding. As we spoke about earlier, the bidding has got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And we are currently sitting $50,000 above the highest offer during the campaign. What do you want to do? The market has spoken. And then this line here that I've used, the only properties that aren't selling at auction currently are those where the owner wants too much money for their property. So last week, I had 100% auction clearance rate. So I sold, actually the last 2 weeks, I've sold every single property under the hammer. And I must have used this line, I don't even know how many times. Because it's absolutely true. At this point in time, if you've got bidders, if I had 1 bidder, I might not use this line. But I haven't had a 1 bidder auction for quite some time. If I've got 3, 4, 5, 6 bidders outside, and 2, 3, 4 of them have participated, I can use that line. Anything to add there, Bianca?
Perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I think just, you know, that top part there on the vendor, just I can't reinforce enough how important it is. I know this is a dialogue session, but the dialogue should be based on the facts. And if you've done the work and built the campaign, you will be able to deliver this dialogue that John's suggesting here. And that's what we want you to be able to do. We want you to be able to say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, we've had X amount of hits, X amount of inspections, X amount of offers, and we are currently X price above the highest feedback through the campaign so far. Can we sell? Can we sell? Because you've done the work, you've proven the case. The vendor should be selling. And where the agent can undo the good work is they start to second guess themselves. They start to say, oh, you know, would you take, and then offering an amount that is not in the marketplace. You know, we're 50,000 above. What if we could get it another 25? Would you take that? There's not another 25. There's no evidence to suggest that another 25 is there. So can we sell? It's the same as presenting that offer and zipping your mouth. It's the removal of dialogue, sticking to the facts. Can we sell?
Perfect.
Just practice it. It can be really hard. Well, you know, when we feel uncomfortable, we have a tendency to ramble.
Let them do the rambling.
Yeah.
Exactly like with that $1 million property the other day. If we'd have spoken, they would have come back in at 1.1. But because we allowed them to talk, they ended up giving it away that they could sell for $1 million. But there was also a suggestion there that there was possibly a lower figure that they could take.
Hey, John, I'm really aware we've got 3 minutes left. I know we've got other slides here. I'd really love for you to do a little bit of a role play of, like, let's just pretend we're in a negotiation auction where, like, we haven't hit reserve, we've got a highest bidder. I'd love for you to step us through how you would talk, what you would say. Is there anybody who would like to volunteer to be a vendor or a purchaser in this scenario? It's not going to be hard.
I'm going to be doing all the work.
Come on, Shayla, you're smiling.
You knew
Monica's going off mute. Monica,
I'll go as well. Yeah.
Great. All right. Monica, you can be the vendor. Shayla, you can be the bidder. John, go for it.
All right.
Okay, so where are we at, Bianca?
So Shayla's got the highest bid at 725.
Okay.
And Monica's got a reserve at 830. And bidding has been exhausted.
And we've paused the auction at 725. Monica is the vendor, Shayla's the buyer. Okay, so first things first, I go into Monica and I say, Monica, we've had 10 registered bidders. There's 6 of them out there. They've all participated in the bidding. You've seen the bidding increments get smaller and smaller and smaller. We're at $725,000, which is $40,000 above any of the offers we had prior to the auction. Are we selling?
Not at 725.
Give me something to work with.
I'm trying to look serious. Less.
You've paused actually, Monica. We can't see any movement on your video.
It can't come up a little bit more? Really? Can you still hear?
Sorry, Monica. You keep breaking in and out.
You know what? Monica, I'm so sorry. You've got a bad signal. I'm going to step in for Monica. I'm sorry. Okay, so they're at 725. Is that what you're telling me? Not at 725. No.
Give me something to work with.
It's got to be over 8, John. It's got to be over 8.
So you're at 800,000.
It's got to have an 8 in front of it for me.
So if I can get them to 8, we're selling.
Okay.
Cool.
How's that, guys?
Sorry, Monica, your signal's really bad.
Have
We're
I-
just going to go.
Okay.
We'll just have Bianca as the vendor for now. So, Shayla, thanks for your bidding so
Hi, John.
far. Really good bidding, by the way. Now, the owner's expectations have been quite a lot higher than this before the auction commenced. They have revised it down to a bit of reality. Now, I am going to need a bit more. So, what can you give me?
Oh, John, I wasn't really wanting to go over 7:30, if I'm honest with you.
But you can give. So you could give me another 5.
Yeah, I'll increase my offer to 7:30.
Can you give me another 5 on top of that?
Yeah, okay. We'll go 7:35.
Thanks so much. Let me just go and have a chat with the seller, and I'll be back with you shortly. So, Bianca, they're currently at 7:30. They have increased their offer by $5,000.
Nowhere near.
It's now
It's too low. Too low.
We're now $45,000 above all of the feedback and the highest offer prior to the auction. During the vendor meeting, we did talk about this figure. We did say that you needed to start thinking around about this figure. Now, what can I go back to them with? You have to come a bit closer to where the market is seeing the value.
Do you reckon you can get her over 750?
I'll certainly give it a try, but
I want more, John. Can you go to her at 775?
look, I can go back. I haven't given her a figure. I can go back, but if I get her to 750, we're selling.
Let me think about it. See what you can do.
Okay. Shayla, the vendor's given me the authority to show you the reserve price.
Okay, what's that?
Okay. So the reserve price is at $830,000.
Oh my gosh. It's
Now-
almost 100K, John.
Yeah, I know. Look, is there anything more you can give me to go back to them to hopefully bring them down a little bit as well from that figure? And I completely understand that you're not going to bridge that much, but can you get me to 750? Can you give me another 50?
We'll go with 745, John.
Can you give me another 5?
Okay, but that's my last offer. 750 is my last offer.
No problem. Thank you very much. Let me go and see what I can do. Bianca, you're there?
Yep.
Look, Shayla has increased a little bit. She's at $735,000. So she was at 730. She's now at 735.
It's not 750. I don't know, John, like maybe we're just going to it's too low.
So can I just tell you, the only properties that aren't selling at the moment in this market with that many bidders outside are the properties where the owner's expectations are in the realms of unbelievability. Now we're so close here. She's already outbid herself by $10,000.
So you just told her that I was at 775, didn't you?
Didn't tell her. No, I told her. I told her you were at 830.
Okay. Can you
Oh,
see
sorry.
if
Were you going out of character?
No,
I thought you
I was
were
in
character.
character. So
No.
Can
So
you-
in
Can you
character,
see
I
if you
wouldn't
can
have
get
said-
her to 7? Tell her that I'll sell at 775. See what
we
she
were talking-
does.
We were talking 750.
Yeah, I said I would really like 775. And if you've just told her 830, maybe if she thinks she can get it for
I wouldn't have.
775.
Sorry, I thought you were going out of character there, Bianca. I wouldn't have said
No.
that. All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me see what I can do.
Okay.
Shayla, they've actually come down by quite a bit.
Okay.
have come
What have they
down
come
to-
down to?
Come down to $800,000.
Oh, so that's still a stretch there.
Can you give me, I don't know, another 5?
Another 5. So
We're
I'm
going
at
back.
750. I'm at 750 and they're at 800.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do another 5.
Thanks. All right. Let me see what I can do. Okay, Bianca.
How'd you go?
I don't know how the agent did this, but they were absolutely fantastic. They've got another $10,000. So they're at $745,000. We're now $60,000 above the highest offer during the campaign.
Do you reckon you can get it at 750? 750, she can have it. Just go get it done, John. 750, it's hers.
I'm stretching her a lot. I really, really am. I'll see what I can do, but I'm so aware we're losing bidders. They're getting in their cars at the moment. This is taking such a long time. I can see what I can do, but we need to work. You need to work and see if you can take that 745. Let me go and have another word with her and see what we can do.
Okay.
Shayla, I know I said I wouldn't come back. Can you go another 5? They've just come down to 760.
John, what are you doing to me? We'll go to 760, but that's it. I'm out after that, John. I'm out.
No problem. And you're happy to raise your paddle for that one at 760?
Yeah.
Marvelous. All right. Thank you. Bianca. They've come up to 750. Are we selling?
Okay, that's all right. No, I said
We're
I'd
done?
sell. Yep, I'll take it.
Now I'm going to send the agent out because I'm going to see if the agent can get a little bit more out of them. And I don't think there's anything there. I've done the best that I can, and I honestly do not think there's any more money there at all. I think I've hung her upside down and shaken her by her boots until every single dollar comes out. And I don't think there's anything more. But I'm going to send the agent out to see if he can squeeze a little bit more out of her.
Okay. All right.
But you're ready to sell at 750. Can we
Yep.
sign the reserve? Blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah.
Yep.
And then all the agent will do is come up to you, Shayla, and say, congratulations. But he'll be chatting with you for a minute. Or she will be chatting with you for a minute. And then they'll come back in while I'm still talking to the vendor. And they will basically say, I've got her up to 760.
Oh my God.
I'll go,
That's so
how
good.
the hell did you do that? I have no idea how they did that. Geez, Bianca, I have no idea. I honestly thought there was nothing left. I don't know what you said to her.
That's good.
Yeah. And that's basically it, you know, but if you've done your work, it would never take that long.
Looking at Callum's message. I'm going to have to go, John. I'm going to have to let you finish this one up. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. That was an excellent role play there, John.
Well, it was excellent from Shayla and Monica. Sorry we didn't get to see your Oscar-winning performance. I'll stick around for 5 minutes to see if anyone has any questions. Bianca, you go to your next meeting.
Thanks, guys. I'll catch you soon. Best of luck with your
Cheers, guys.
negotiation.
Did anyone have any questions? Or Deborah, poor connection here. Yeah, we can send you the recording of it. I'll get Bianca to. So Deborah said there was a poor connection. Deborah, I'll get Bianca to send through to you. Is it just deborah.anchor@raywhite.com? Actually, could you just send a message to Bianca? That would probably be the easiest. Anyone else wants, just bdenham@raywhite.com. Any questions from anyone, guys? Anything else? Applause for Shayla's Oscar-worthy performance as well. All right, look, if there's no, what does that say? Clap. You're getting a lot of applause there. Oh, I've written the address down, Deborah.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Shayla. I've written the address down. I'll write it again. There it is, Deborah. Just send an email to Bianca if you want a recording of that. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.